Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. It's too bad. I'm not one of the ones up for election, right? I got 2 more years,
Correct.
right? I thought about that and I was like,
Hey, Caitlin. Yeah, it's hey, Caitlin.
hello.
JD, it's Pam and Terry are
Okay.
the terms that end in 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, I totally knew that.
I know.
I keep up on.
I know.
Absolutely.
You're the one that told me, I think.
see some heads nodding. So let's go ahead and get started. If the secretary would be so good as to call the roll.
Absolutely. Jess Ray.
Present.
Terry Lindbergh.
So let's go ahead and get
Absent.
started.
Sorry. Jim Rogel.
Good as to call the roll.
JD Davis, present. Caitlin Trummel.
Jess Ray.
Here. Erin Ripley Guitaric.
Here.
Pam Lewis.
Present.
Okay. I'll start off with a quick opening statement here related to the open meetings. The governor has issued a disaster declaration related to the public health concern of the statewide COVID-19 pandemic. As president of the board, I felt that it was an in-person meeting was not practical or prudent. Therefore, the risk of exposure with COVID, so we are meeting remotely. With that remote meeting, just as a reminder, people are able to come in and watch online, which we have in our agenda, as well as make public comment and statement. As of this time, we have not had anyone ask for that. And I believe that has everything that we need, but just a further reminder that was the Open Meeting Act changes. Our votes will be roll call votes, so that everything is definitely for sure, and just to make sure everyone can hear, see, and participate. Is that correct? Saying nods. Pam, nodding. Okay. All right. Okay. So with that review of the agenda, corrections, additions, anybody have anything needs to be added? Okay. Hearing not, we'll move to approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Would someone like to move to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you. Jim is seconding. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. The secretary would Mr. Cole.
Oh, sorry, man.
Oh, that's okay.
Jess Ray.
Yes.
Terry Lindbergh. Absent. Jim Rogel.
Yes.
JD Davis. Yes. Caitlin Trunnell.
Am I supposed to vote if I wasn't here last time?
You could abstain.
Or you could have reviewed them.
Oh, I did. I watched the video and then saw that. So, I didn't say yeah.
Erin Ripley Guitaric.
Yes.
Pam Lewis.
Yes.
We're good.
Okay, that passed. Approval of expenditures. I believe everyone had an opportunity to see in the packet the expenditures of payroll as well as other expenditures. Would someone like to move to approve?
I move to approve expenses totaling $1,270 from July 23rd to August 19th, and 2 July payrolls totaling $151,672.42, equaling $251,951.47.
Thank you, Pam. Do we have a second? Erin, I saw your hand up first. We'll go with Erin just a second. Any further discussion on payroll and expenses? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote.
Jess, sorry, just a question.
Yeah.
Pam, I don't know if Pam said 1,000 or 100,000 on the first figure.
I said 100.
Okay, sorry.
$100,279.05.
Sorry, I misheard. Sorry.
Nope,
No,
that's all right.
I was like, wait a minute.
Sorry.
All right, we're good. We're good now. Jess Ray.
Yes.
Terry Lindbergh. Absent. Jim Rogel.
Yes.
JD Davis. Yes. Caitlin Trunnell.
Yes.
Erin Ripley Guitaric.
Yes.
Pam Lewis.
Yes.
Okay. We've got approval on the approval expenditures and payrolls. So moving on, President's report. I have nothing of substance this evening to share other than our usual thank you to the library staff for all that they do and to our patrons for making do. It was nice to see the kudos note that came from some of our patrons here recently. That was a nice little social media moment. So that's all I have for my report this evening. We'll move into public comment. And as I mentioned earlier, we had no one reach out asking to address us. So hearing none, we'll move right into the library director's report. Brian.
Thank you, Jess. I would say thanks to the board too. This is tricky times for staff, patrons, everyone, but we really appreciate the support of the board. And we had an all staff meeting yesterday. Was talking about increasing numbers, uncertainty, etc., and just encouraging everyone to stay healthy, stay safe, and mentioned we all appreciate the board's support and leadership through this. So thank you all. Really appreciate that. We have lots of projects, in process, as you know. The restroom project is the tile is in the building. Tiles are very large. The floor tile, which is great. And we were sailing along until last week. Someone jinxed us by saying, I think we might be a little ahead of schedule. And then that wasn't the case for long. Long story short, floors are very uneven. The tiles are very large, so we need very even floors. So pretty much this week has all been floor work, and we anticipate that'll probably go through Friday, honestly. They're doing a great job in terms of leveling it off, but an unanticipated expense there, but something that had to be done. So luckily, they were able to tackle it right away, so that's good. Overall, looking at late September to complete the restroom project. Now that was prior to this 5 or so days of floor leveling, but still looking for that late September time frame. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the agenda. On a happy note, the West Roof project, which feels like we started a long time ago, probably because we did, is officially complete. The warranty inspection went well, so we can file that warranty away and enjoy that nice roof for a long time. So that feels great. Curbside continues to go really well. Can't say enough about how staff have really, that process is very efficient, I think. And as was mentioned earlier, the browser packs are really fun, both for staff and for the patrons. And it's a way that we can interact, excuse me, and just help patrons, find materials that they're not aware of, and they actually often enjoy it. So that's really fun. Strategic planning process underway. Not a lot of progress here, mostly because the leadership team has been off different weeks this last month or so, and we'll pick that back up after next week, likely. So more to come on that in the near future, certainly by the next meeting. Summer reading program has been completed since we last met, so kudos to staff on another wonderful and highly unusual summer reading program. Again, just great to engage the community in different ways, and I think a lot of people had a lot of fun, and we're kind of surprised by what we could pull off. And again, we're just thankful for the staff and for all the patrons just rolling with it and making that program happen. So it's great. Working on both the library and the foundation audit at the moment. And the town's working on their audit as well, and that process is wrapping up. The budget process, again, which seems to be the theme, unusual, very tricky, and we're doing okay. I think not ready to approve anything tonight. I'll have to enter the budget, a draft budget, prior to our next meeting, but I'll actually seek your approval at the September meeting. I'll have a lot more and better information by that time. And I think every day matters, frankly, as we look to prepare this budget and attempt to project revenues, particularly, and expenses as we move forward. Done a lot of work on that, obviously, and we're going to be fine, I feel, honestly. It's just, it's different. So we want to be sure that our numbers are as solid as they can be. So more info on that. If you haven't seen the landscaping on the south side of the library, please walk, bike, drive by, and take a peek at it. Lots of native plants, very hardy, which is what we requested. Eventually, it'll tie in really nicely to the Ecology Action Center's landscaping, and we do actually have a small rain garden kind of in the center of the building. Unfortunately, we had to lose a large pin oak tree that had been dying for years, but that's opened up a lot of sunshine for the new plants, and we plan to use the new plantings as a kind of a passive program. So we have information from Parks and Rec. We'll put together some information about what's what and allow people to kind of learn more about those. And I think it's going to be great as it matures. We have opted not to hold a large book sale. We get requests for this. I've talked to 2 people today about it who would love for us to hold a book sale, and we say we would love to, but unfortunately, this is just not the time. So we continue to explore alternatives and figure out how we can, possibly set up an online storefront and hopefully get those books moving throughout the community. So stay tuned there. Virtual programming, we've learned that kids particularly really enjoy the interactive portion of the programming. So we plan to focus more heavily on that type of programming for kids as opposed to recording things, for example, and let them engage with each other and with the children's librarians. And that's there's so much value there. So that's our plan through the end of 2020. Last time we discussed the CDBG grant funded by HUD. Those distributions have been completed via Unit 5, and lots of very appreciative, happy kids there to receive those great packets. So thanks again to the town, Children's Discovery Museum.
Would you possibly, develop talking points for a media story? I think that the cooperation between all of those, and then the concern with children's remote learning from public schools, to show how we've tried to enhance and work together, and I think it might be a cute little story.
Yeah. Yes. And related, just in case anyone doesn't know, Kathy Olofsson just began as the Director of Communications and Civic Engagement, I think is her title, for the town of Normal. She started Monday. I met with her an hour yesterday, just talking to her about the library and ways that we can help with some communication maybe, and how the town could maybe help us. And Kathy's a big fan of the library and very engaged in literacy, etc. So I think I just mentioned that because I think this type of thing you'll see communicated more intentionally, proactively in the future, I think, and that's going to be a good thing for the town and the library as well. So
she's great with social media. I mean, she should. Anytime you need her to throw something together, I don't know if that's part of her purview, but she'd be great at that.
Yeah. So I will share your suggestion with her as a starting point. Yeah.
Don't tell her.
Yeah. I'll just show her the video. So. What else? Exciting news. We posted a development coordinator position, which is funded fully by the NPL Foundation. It's a half-time position. One factor there was the intent was that the ongoing book sale and the 2 big book sales would fund that position. Obviously, those have been stopped for the time being, but the foundation's in a position to move forward with this position still, which is great. We've had a good pool of candidates. We're in that process right now, and we're excited. The staff, I know the foundation is too, to have this position, to have someone focused on the foundation and help it move forward in ways that we haven't been able to thus far. So a great milestone, I think, for the foundation to be at that point. So and a good pool. So hopefully more news on that in the somewhat near future. So. And then the last thing I had was just computer purchase. We're requesting your support of purchasing 32 laptops. A lot of these replace desktops, so this is a move towards learning from something from our closure initially, enabling staff, making sure that they have a laptop with a docking station, which now is just a single cable basically, and so just a more remote mobile workforce, just in case, but also working. Doing outreach, working throughout the building, etc. So this is a good move for us. So these are at least 5 years old, the ones that we're replacing. So we feel good about this. And that's it, unless there are any questions.
Okay, well then we'll go ahead and move on. Do you have anything for the foundation? Any report from foundation? Go ahead and move into new business. First item is a discussion item, COVID-19, just an update. Does anyone have any questions, or do we need to know anything new and different on status?
Excuse me, I can share just a little bit of an update. So I mentioned we had a staff meeting yesterday, and now we have certainly a sense of when we could open to the public. Per the restroom project being complete. So we've talked about a few things, and none of this is final by any means, but I just want to kind of share what we're thinking. We've looked at a single entry, single exit, for example. We're sensitive to the fact that we have a lot of traffic that comes in the north side, about 85-90% of our traffic. We're also sensitive to the fact that our building's kind of narrow for most of it, so we really want to control traffic. So single entry, single exit, what I call an ambassador position, kind of between the two entries, or in this case, an entry and exit, to welcome people, smiling under their mask case for people to see, and welcome people to the library. We know people are craving that interaction with some library staff, and we want to be there and be visible right away. Also, that person will remind anyone who's not wearing their mask that they need to wear a mask, or we can serve them via curbside, etc. We'll have lots of signage, distance markers where necessary, signs indicating a mask must be worn, to enter the building. I think the key thing in this is that, based on what we know now, we plan to promote our opening as grab and go. So we want to make it clear the library isn't what it used to be in terms of seating. The discovery room, unfortunately, will be closed. So we want to just set expectations, accurately going into it. So we want people to come in, browse if you want, grab your materials and go. We're not setting a time limit, per se going into it, but the idea is to come, get your materials and leave for the sake of trying to keep everyone as healthy and safe as possible. Again, based on what we've heard from other libraries, we don't think there will be a huge issue with the capacity in the building. We do have some concerns, though, frankly, about like groups of children, for example, coming in. How do we ensure that we don't kind of overload one part of the building, children's particularly. So that's a concern. Another concern is just how do we provide public computing in the best way. So again, we want to set, provide the appropriate level of service that we can, but also not have people just in the library too long, when part of the idea is to kind of get in, get out to a certain extent. So we've talked about the possibility, and again, this is all just kind of us thinking out loud, looking at all the variables at the moment. When we first started curbside, for example, we served by appointment. So we've thrown around the idea, perhaps we open by appointment, and that's mostly to kind of see how things go, I guess, for lack of a better term. And that would help us with that concern about like large groups of children, for example, showing up. If we know they're coming and we know when they're coming, we have a sense of where they'll be. Maybe that's just kind of, east end of children's, west end of children's. That's helpful, and that helps us manage and provide a safe, healthy experience for everybody. So we're kind of throwing that idea around and seeing how that might work. Pros and cons of that, obviously. If we did go that direction, I think that we would build into it walk-ups, drive-ups, etc. People who aren't aware, they would have to make a reservation necessarily. Again, we think typically it wouldn't be an issue. People who would want to come and who are willing to come could come in the library and it would be fine, we think. But again, we're just trying to be cautious enough to provide a good, healthy, safe experience. So one thing that we are going to do, and this is we're starting the creation of this soon, is we're going to put out a very simple video that shows users what the library that they'll be visiting is, and kind of at the same time what it isn't. So again, unfortunately, the discovery room is closed. Some things that used to be out that kids could just walk up and use won't be available. A lot of seating won't be available. So we really want people just to come in with with an informed sense of what we're doing. And again, that's why we would promote it as a grab and go service. It's really about the materials experience at this point. So we look forward to that day when we have programming and groups and interaction and lots of seating, etc. But we anticipate when we open that isn't where we'll be, at this point. So just trying to set a clear expectation there. Kind of related, I'll share that if you remember Giving Tuesday 2019, the community helped us fund a sensory app through Infiniteach. So that app we anticipate will be done about October is what we're thinking right now. So we have had the opportunity, because we're developing it now, to add this virtual experience too. So to help users of that app get a sense of kind of how to use the library virtually too. So that's been a nice bonus, I guess, to developing the app at this time. It's not only about the facility, it's also how can you interact with the library virtually. So that's helpful. So we're excited for that, and several staff, John Fisher, Emily Cly are working on that. Jennifer and Tori are involved in that too. So that's going to be a great thing to have, and it's moving along nicely. We wonder about hours, frankly, as we look to reopening, and we've heard a lot of libraries talk about they're slow in the evenings, particularly. We've seen that in curbside too. So, there are a lot of places, even just in town, they started off with the the early hours set aside for certain populations, and that's kind of faded, it seems. And I know Bloomington Public Library has had some issues recently with those being difficult to maintain, I think, and some friction there. So I'm not certain if we would have or need those hours. Possibly we start without those hours and see if they're necessary. But we do know that Bloomington's had some trouble with that particular offering recently, particularly. So I think that's really kind of where we are now. The key thing again is just the scope of services is grab and go. It's materials based. We want to help people as much as we can. We also want to keep distanced and keep everyone safe as much as possible. So a number I'll throw out there is I've asked about the impact of opening on curbside service. How is it impacted? And the number I've heard is that basically once a library opens, they see their curbside service go down about 50%. So that's really helpful to know, particularly because our curbside takes up a lot of space to maintain just the back end of it. So that helps us plan for our space accordingly. So yeah, that's where we are right now. Certainly would love to hear any thoughts from the board, but we think that's where we're aiming in terms of a safe, healthy experience that we can staff well. Something else I'll throw out there too is we have not yet split our staff into different groups. We're thinking about that, particularly as numbers increase throughout the community. So that's another variable that we're considering. And if we elect to do that, then that would likely impact. We would take into consideration the hours that we're open even more if we're running essentially two units of staffing. So, any questions or comments on that?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
My first question is, when you're thinking about the library reopening, are you still talking about having a chunk of staff working virtually? Or is it like all the staff would come back and work in the building? And then I guess the other half of my question is, with the schools closing, and obviously there are staff that are parents with kids, is there anything that's being done to support them? Are they going to have any sort of ability to be at home, or does the library opening change any of that? Like, how's all that fit together?
So in terms of the staff who are schooling, and we're very sensitive to that, obviously. So one one good thing about us is we are, even with reduced hours, we're still open a lot of hours and weekends too. So that flexibility just inherently helps that situation typically. Um, and I can mention too that there are a handful of staff who we feel are it's fine for them to work from home, frankly, particularly those who are developing virtual programming. So, and two of them happen to have children at home too in school, so there's some flexibility there. So yeah, we have really at least 3 staff, full-time staff, who are working remotely as much as possible, which is quite a bit. Our graphic designer, for example, she can work remotely for the most part. But each of those staff members, they check in at regular times with staff here that they need to, just physically. And then like the children's librarians, they have they're in the weekend rotation, they have evenings, etc. So they still work those shifts. We, again, with the with our focus more on kind of a certain type of programming, I think that might really maybe amplify the need for, like, the programming librarians, for example, to do more programming. And we want to be careful not to overextend them, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so it's how can other staff, if they're able to, or if they need to work from home, how can they support those efforts in the most meaningful way? Are there other programs that we can develop more for adults, particularly, that maybe are kind of easier to pull off? As many of you know, our children's librarians do an amazing job of working with kids and their grown-ups too, and just providing some really neat experiences. So I think that we're really relying on 2 of our children's librarians at the moment, and we have one more who's done a lot of programming too and is ready. She could work from home if necessary, and then Tori did it too. So at the moment, our mix is working well with 2 children's librarians predominantly working from home, and then our graphic designer working from home too. But we have lots of scenarios in our head, as everyone does. And at our staff meeting yesterday, there were a number of questions, and there's questions about what if this happens and that happens. And I said, we're always going to err on the side of patron safety and staff safety. So, frankly, if we need to close because of a health consideration, we'll do it. That's the priority. So it's really that simple. But between looking to open and closing due to a risk, there's a lot of different scenarios, and I think we're fortunate that our staff are flexible and willing to try things. But we, curbside requires a number of staff just to deliver that service, and picking all the holds and all that is a lot. So when we open, there will be a trade-off between some of the curbside prep and then delivery to the cars versus more people coming in the building, for example, and selecting their own items, but then we're at the desk. So it's probably a wash, frankly. So yeah, and then obviously we're trying to be really careful about any protocol for any potential exposure, families' potential exposure, roommates' potential exposure, etc. And so far we're doing really well, which is we're really thankful for. But we feel like right now we're balancing that work from home, that virtual work, and as well as the teaching. We're pretty nimble, I think, in terms of reacting to parents who need, if their child or whoever in their family needs something, we can cover that typically. So.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate you guys being so sensitive to your staff. It's important we take good care of them.
Yeah, we want to. They appreciate it too, and they appreciate the board support and all that. So.
Any other questions for Brian or concerns about what preparations are going on? Anything in addition to that? Then hearing none, we'll move past that discussion item to the computer purchase, which is an action item. As Brian talked about in his report, they'd like to do some replacements. Would someone like to move on that purchase?
There was an updated price in your email today. We came back one more time with a request to get a better price.
Pam, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I move we waive the formal bidding process and accept the quote for $63,999.36 from Dell for the purchase of computer equipment.
Thank you. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Caitlin, you got in there first. So you'll be the,
That was close.
it was like, ooh, there's a race
Voice
there.
instead of
What a race. Everybody wants laptops because of the new situation. So we got a second there. Any further discussion? Any questions on that? JD, did you get all the facts there?
Oh, I had it. It's like
Okay. Perfect. Jim.
What's the turnaround? How long will it take to get them in and distributed and set up?
Yeah. So first step, we asked for items that are in stock. So that helps the turnaround. I want to say it's 5 to 7 days total from the time we say go till they're in the building, if I remember correctly. And then, so this is moving to Windows 10 for us. We have a few Windows 10 machines in the building, but this is our first kind of mass migration to Windows 10. So I can't say honestly, it shouldn't be too bad. Being all staff machines, those are easier to set up than the public machines too. So the way it works basically is once you get one or two done, then it moves much more quickly. There's some individualization there, but I would feel comfortable saying a month from now they're all in staff's hands and operational. Likely sooner, assuming that first that 5 to 7 day window holds true.
Any further conversation on this item? Hearing none, JD, if you'd be so called to do the roll call vote.
Jess Ray,
Yes.
Terry Lindbergh, absent. Jim Rogel,
Yes.
JD Davis, yes. Caitlin Trunnell,
yes.
Aaron Ripley Guitaric, yes. Pam Lewis.
Yes.
Okay, hearing all, that's a pass. So we'll move into our next item, which is actually going to be tabled based on the information that Brian provided with us earlier, which is the fiscal year 21 through 26 budget, because as Brian mentioned, he'll have more information for us in September. So moving on past that item, we'll bring that back up at our next meeting. Is a discussion item of the 2021-2024 strategic planning process.
Would you like just a quick update on this?
Please.
All right. So as I mentioned, we've been stalled this last month, staggering vacations among the leadership team. And one thing I found myself saying a lot is, a lot of questions, current topics, et cetera, coming up, and keep making notes. Let's address that in the strategic plan. Let's address that in the strategic plan. So I've said this before, but we're really thankful that we're going through this process right now, because it's such a unique time to be thinking about things in a different way. So I shared with our leadership team that last time we really strived to have a single page strategic plan. I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think that there's enough different thing. We have more priorities in a way. I think a lot's happened certainly recently, but even in the last 3 years. So and we've made changes based on our first strategic plan that have better enabled us to do more and do different things. I always point out our community engagement position. It's so critically important to engage the community. Laura does a fantastic job. And again, with Kathy starting at the town, that gives her kind of an ally at the town, which is great too. She has, at Bloomington Public Library, there's a similar position too. So we've made great strides in engagement, frankly. And then with Laura's work on social media too, engaging in that way. And then Emily Clyde's work as graphic designer. We have amazing graphics, I think, and it matters. It's that visual communication, I think, is really important and really appreciated by our patrons. We've started the constant contact emails going out recently, just trying to give kind of nice, easily consumable updates about the library. So we have our communications doing better. We were really starting to take off with outreach pre-COVID. So that's something that's really frustrating, is we feel like we could really have an impact with outreach now, but the parameters are tricky in doing that. So I think you'll see a lot more about outreach in the next strategic plan. Certainly being prepared for this type of situation that we're in, that will somehow be in there, updating various things related to reacting, or hopefully being more proactive in a situation like this that we didn't even consider, frankly, a few years ago. The foundation, I think that we can set some kind of elevated expectations with the foundation this time around, because we're in a different place again now than we were a few years ago. Last time we were doing strategic planning, we were looking at a new facility. I think now we're much more focused on our current facility. We're much more focused on outreach and how do we best engage the community. And so I don't think we lose that new facility in that discussion. I think it's put in a different place, in some ways, but also it's just we're much more focused on how do we impact the community, which we've always been that. But it's the facility is just a box that we have things in. So kind of related to the increased usage of digital content and a lot of the challenges there. So how do we offer a good balance of physical collections and digital collections, and optimize the use of our resources? And I think again, just the whole fiscal piece. Our budget is essentially flat, and costs are increasing. We're doing okay. There are limits to that equation. We're seeing them. You'll see them in the budget. So knowing that, how do we make some choices that allow us, enable us to continue to serve the community as best we can? And do we do more with volunteers, for example? Do we invest in volunteers? Do those enable us to one, offer a really good volunteer experience for our community, which I think would be appreciated, but two, supplement our staff in a way that allows us to do a lot of things that we want to do kind of beyond our budget, frankly. So hopefully a win-win there. Something we haven't really done in the past, and we know to do volunteers well, to have a well-managed volunteer program takes a lot of investment, a lot of effort. To do it right, it's a big step. So is that a direction that we go? Maybe. So et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot in this, and it's again, this current situation is really forcing us to I think differently and more creatively than before. So I think it's very healthy. Any questions on that process? Much more to come on that next month or so.
I don't see any questions or comments. Pausing to make sure. Okay. Next item that we have is unfinished business, and to my understanding, that is none. I guess unfinished business this time would be we wish Terry well. Sorry that he wasn't able to be here tonight. I guess that's closest we have to unfinished business. So didn't say that when we started, so we'll get that in. And then does anyone have any suggested items for our next agenda? Any items that we need to, we did table the budget item as we mentioned, so that will be on the next agenda. Anything other than that? Okay. Well, then the reminder is the next meeting date will be September 30th, 2020. We'll see how things are going. It may be same bat time, same bat channel, as they said in the 60s. We'll see how things are going and make a determination as we get closer to that date. And then I think that is all that we have for business tonight. So now we are at adjournment, and I want to say thank you all very much, and meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.